So, sorry for the startup. I'm running an experimental system, and with the experimental graphics driver, for some reason, unexplainably, it didn't work. So, switching back to more mainstream Linux here. Arch Linux, by the way, Manjaro, the best. So, I was here last year. Who was here? I was here. Who was here? Very good. So last year I was actually just recovering from a burnout and returning to my passion project, and was like lying dormant for 20 years. And then I thought, why has nobody still built this? You know, I mean, it can't be. It's great for me, but actually sad for the state of the desktop now. And since I got into knowledge management also very early on, I will talk about data. I thought I'll give it a try and take a kind of sabbatical or year of work. And since the last PKM Summit, I went from vision and first very primitive experimental prototype to prove the core idea to a system that I can finally start to use for my own purpose. I want to show it to you later. In the worst case, we have to deal with a very experimental setup, but my new friend will assist me. So, what's it about SEN? Semantic extensions, or simple, elegant, and native? A home for your thoughts. What does it mean? It's not just a sales moniker. Anyway, it's free and open source. I'm not selling you anything. I'm just trying to put some interesting thoughts into the back of your head. And actually, the talk before that, I'm bad with names, I'm sorry. Larry was a perfect, I don't want to say introduction because it would diminish it. It was a perfect ramp to my talk, because I'm now taking it from there and show you how I would build a system based on that. Yeah? So it's all about personal ontologies in your file system in a native way with typed files and not just nodes, because not everything is strings, as we have learned. So this is a /home, which means in computer terms, we also know this is your home folder, and this is the bridge to the folder system. So of course it's still files and folders also, but it's just like a coarse way to classify, like rooms in your house. You just know, okay, I put my luggage when I come home into that space, bam, and I don't really care if it's in the upper shelf or in the lower shelf. So folders should really just be a very primitive way of a first broad categorization, right, or classification actually. And this is why I call SEN a home for your thoughts, because it is a file system for your knowledge work. So this is me, you know my face now. I'm a father of a smart little cute girl called Ida. She's now soon, like in May, she will turn 11. And she's also an inspiration. She always surprises me. She actually made her first knowledge graph when she was 7, and she could barely read and write. And she, out of nowhere, I never talked to her about this, I never showed her. And out of nowhere, she did a knowledge graph on the blackboard for a recipe she wanted to bake. And I was like, wow. Okay, so also trying to become a founder, but founding depends on funding, and this is where I'm stuck currently. Solid backing in computer science, working for over 20 years in industry, mostly in backend development, service orientation. I've lived through all the stuff of enterprise service bus, and this will be the ultimate integration. And never said no, not quite that, but and then was when the WS Death Star standards exploded. You know. Yeah, I'm also humanist, so I really had ancient Greek at school, which also kind of widens your horizon. So translating Platon's cave analogy from the original is just something nice to do once in a while. Okay, then tinkerer, I was curious, like to do tiny experiments, as we have learned. She's not here, sadly. Engineer, I said that book. And then I'm a big book nerd, so I'll come to that later, because it's, for me, it's currently more a curse than a blessing because I collect books that I never have time to read, and I prefer the dead tree format, so I really want to smell the paper and feel it in my hands, and I value a good print and a good layout. This is why I always send back this crappy printed in Poland big letters crap that Amazon sells. This is really a sad development. But then there are some really great cloth-bound books over there. So speeding up a bit, I also wrote my own book chapter-ish, which you can actually buy on Amazon, but I don't get any dime from it. The publisher kind of disappeared. So, but it was a nice experience. But it was never the plan for me to earn from this. I wanted to nail down my project idea actually, and that was really a big help because it forced me to think hard and deep about what I want to build, what is it, and how can you actually use it, how can you make sense of that, because this is really, really hard to get into. If you can build ontologies for a company and the experts will understand it, but when you want to build a knowledge management system for average information educated people who know how to deal with files and folders but don't care about formal ontologies, and then that's really hard to integrate, and I did some brain wrenching there, and I think I came up with a quite nice solution in the end. So this was that. Yeah, that's my pile of shame, but that's only from the last 3 weeks or so what I accumulated. Sorry, yeah.
Is your name in that book?
Yes, I mean I was contributor. I contributed 1 chapter on SEN.
Okay. Because as of today, we're gonna publish a list of all the people that wrote books or are in books in this community.
Mm-hmm.
So now I can add it. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah. With this book emoji, I suppose. The emoji ontology. No, it's cool. It's cool. We come to that later. So I'm confessing tsundoku, which is Japanese for people who collect books but never read them, because I have kind of the reader's block, writer's block. But actually, when you have the fear of never recollecting the information that you gain, why bother starting? So I was searching for the perfect knowledge management system before reading up on all the books because I don't want to do it twice. So this kept me down the rabbit hole of inventing SEN, and now I can finally read books. So it's a self-help project, really. As every good software project starts, you want to scratch an itch, right? So yeah, if this guy sounds familiar to you, I think we are fighting information more than it helps us currently. We try to overcome these limitations of current systems with tool complexity, and I think that's the wrong approach actually, but you're good. It's no problem if you use whatever tool you use, but just pushing out some thoughts here. So with even the best tool, you will only solve part of the problem, and when you enter a new company or a new domain, or you want to change your tags or something, you will quickly fall down the hill again. And also yesterday we saw even this picture with the knowledge pyramid. It was, I think, Bianca Pereira who introduced this pyramid, and it was a good visualization, but also a horrible thought for me to constantly having to walk up this pyramid. And it reminded me of Mr. Sisyphus there. And it's actually, this is, I created this with some AI, and you see that there are actually nodes glued together. So, haha, the analogy. Yeah, but quickly back to chaos. And then there's famous Plato's cave analogy, which reminds me of when everything is a text. Maybe we are these people here who look at text projected from real-world objects outside. But this is not text, these are people, and real-world objects or even fiction objects. Not everything is a text, and that's just semantically problematic, let's put it like that. And that leads to all the problems that we face with linking, tagging, and so on. And I also don't like tools that put metadata in your notes, because it's called metadata for a reason. It should not be part of the data, right? So maybe we are using the wrong environment. So my goal was to build an environment that you can install on your desktop or even run from an USB drive, which is actually made for knowledge management in the first place. And you feel this in every touch, in every byte of the system, that it's made for knowledge management. It's not some tool stacked up as an afterthought. It's really the driver behind all. Did I forget? Actually I have it here. Yeah, you lose a lot of semantics and you end up maybe like this guy who tries to push some object into a form which is just not what you want to do. And you also enter the complexity problem, and you find something that you want to use, and your tool doesn't support this, and let's install another plugin, and let's get another plugin. And then you end up like this guy, and be careful with your vault or whatever you use, because it can blow up in your face at any time, and then you only have some weird text data with some data view, YAML, whatever, and good luck with that. So I think it's more infrastructure problem and not a tool problem. Knowledge management is connected, and everything that's connected is an infrastructure problem. And you have all this linked data, you have all these objects flying around. And I don't want to put everything into one vault. I actually want to use what I have and connect that and reference that, maybe in my notes or wherever I want. I want to have a drawing with my drawing tool of choice. I want to have a whatever video file or even entities like books. And then I want to connect them in a way I need them and reference them from my notes, right? So we are in this kind of vertical tool complexity versus horizontal infrastructure thinking. But we have come already a long way. So the consensus seems to be that my cable is stuck, no? That file-based solutions are the way to go, because you don't want to rely on a cloud service that takes your data hostage and does whatever with it, and you can never export it in a decent format. This concept also works well with, or maps well to the Zettelkasten analogy, or similar, or atomic nodes, whatever you call it. But current solutions still impose this necessity for specific tools, or methodologies, or folder structures that you have to slavishly follow. And yeah, it still creates this kind of complexity without. And as a software developer, I'm also not happy with tight coupling in any way. So if you bind your information to a tool, that's already a slippery slope, so to say. So in software development, we learned the hard way to separate things and have loose coupling, and separating code from logic. So like here, code from nodes, and also markup from logic. Like the first web applications had some weird JavaScript, some Java server pages, if somebody still remember. It was like Java code in HTML intermix, and so on. This is a bad idea. This is just really not scalable and maintainable. So the problem with files and folders is, I talked about scalability, it doesn't scale. So as soon as your vault reaches a certain size, you're beep. And you have to invent you have to switch to a new vault, and then you lose some connections. And this is all, it just feels so unnatural, and I don't want to fight tools, I want to think and link. So the problem with files and folders is also it's a strict taxonomy, actually. And it follows this parent-child relationship, which is really also technically implemented that way, because it comes from the 1970s when you had 20 files and you maybe wanted to put some files away. Then that was a good idea. It was never intended that you had 200 files in a folder. It doesn't make any sense. So then they invented this symbolic links. If somebody knows who knows what a symbolic link is? 1, 2, okay. Yeah, that's good, because it proves my point. I will talk to the Haiku developers, because they actually have this menu, create a symbolic link, which nobody understands, and I will just toss this out and invent my own, create a semantic link. Because with SEN, You work on a normal desktop system with files and folders, but you can create semantic links, and they never break because they bind to IDs. And these ideas are kept as part of the file, but in the metadata of the file, and you can search for it, but you don't have to because the system does it for you. But I'm ahead of myself. The problem is also current file formats, even if they are open, they kind of hide the content, they own it, they try to either deliberately, like Microsoft Word in the past, or undeliberately, how do you say? Accidentally, thanks. Like even open document, it's an open format, but have you ever looked at this format? I mean, you have to use it with Open or LibreOffice. So how can I find out if I can delete an illustration? Is it still linked from the document? I don't know. With SEN you can, because then I can extract this relation from the open document format, and I can immediately say, when you delete this file in the file browser, it says, oh wait, there's still a semantic relation to the document. And that's the kind of desktop that we should have in 2025, right? So no more apps owning data and subscription fees or whatever. And text that you can export, but they are not really text, some kind of text, and also Markdown is not a real standard. It's very hard to pass. So if you're ever a developer and you face Markdown, this is really a crappy form. Okay, enough. There's this mantra, files over apps, but that's just half of the way. You know, it really breaks short half of the way, because what you really want is data centricity. What we really want is a full reuse throughout the system based on like fair principles, and that's cut off for some reason. That you really have, like, idea is that data is at the center of your system. That's why it's called data. And apps are merely visitors. So, for example, if you have a CSV file, then you can work with it in any kind of spreadsheet application, or you can just open it in a text editor and it will still make sense. You can parse it with Python, whatever. That's data centricity. And if you just say, yeah, I have my files and folders and Markdown files, that's not data centricity, because you still need Obsidian, for example, to make sense of all this. You lose the relations, you lose the metadata. You have no idea where this comes from. Yeah, it's just half a solution in the end. Is this? Yeah. So SEN really tries to combine the best of both worlds. Take what you know, but extend it in a useful and intuitive way to make semantic relations possible with native types, where files are actually represent entities, a fully local first, friction-free environment. It's also, and that really allows you, like, from the basic user, as soon as you turn it on, you have a knowledge management environment. You don't need to launch any tool. You can, like, tools should really be used like tools in the real world. You don't use a screwdriver to eat. Yeah, so I mean, you can use your hands. So tools should be for specialized purpose, but they can do better. But a lot of the, like 80% of your use cases can be covered with a decent desktop system. You don't need Obsidian to find out which nodes are related to another node.
But what did you say that?
You shouldn't. You shouldn't.
But what did you say that, like, a very customized OS itself is also a tool?
Yeah, but then every OS is a tool. So yeah. So of course, I come to that later. It's currently a niche solution, but you can see it like a cabin in the woods. If you go writing, you go on a hiking trip, you free your mind, and you go into this cabin, and then you work on the stuff. That's like the trip that Darwin took. So if you are on the haiku ship, then you're good to go, you know. And then you get back to Windows or whatever. I mean, there's SSDs are cheap. You can anyway have a multi-boot system or a USB drive that you can take anywhere. This has also other applications. So yeah, what is also good about SEN? Yes, of course, I'm also using plugins to extract data, relations, and whatever. But these are normal applications that run in the system, and every application profits from it, because I put the data that I get, the metadata, like from Open Library, I get book metadata, and I store it in file attributes in the file system. So every other application can work with this. You don't need SEN to, actually when developing, often I don't even start up the SEN background process because I can do many things without it. And that's how it should be. You don't rely on SEN. It helps you, but it still keeps everything in a data-centric way. Which also means that I lost track of time. But you can extend it to any use case. So that's also a possible business model, maybe, that you can adapt SEN to different domains. Like if you are a journalist or a movie critic or a librarian or a researcher or whatever, you can define your, I call it ontology. It's a bit of a stretch maybe, but it's kind of an ontology, and work with it, and you're good to go. So SEN has like 3 pillars. I call it like global and connected. So you can reach out on your own, under your own control. So you can connect to services which we heard yesterday actually. You can connect to a free alternative to IMDb because they locked down their API. Shame on them, shame on you, IMDb. So you use like Letterboxd, they're the same but open. You can retrieve all the movie metadata, movie poster, everything. You can connect to Open Library, which is really awesome. It's part of the Internet Archive. You get all the book metadata, and if they don't have it, it's easy to add, and everybody profits from it. So, for example, I tried this with my use case, with my demo, retrieving some metadata, and I think Bob Dotto was not yet, the cover was not uploaded, and I just uploaded it, now it's there, and everybody can find it. So it's like also enrichment, really semantic enrichment with metadata from any source, extraction of things, either globally or locally, and then this allows you to exchange also this information. You can put this content anywhere. But the second pillar is that it's also local and protected, because it's a fully local system that runs on a personal computer. In a local environment, you don't have to share anything. You can lock it down. You can work with your own data, and just even from a USB stick, which also is one of the more delicate use cases, but like for journalists or activists in sensitive environments, you don't want to leave traces in the cloud or whatever. And when the shit hits the fan, you can just destroy the USB drive and nothing ever happened. Huh? So, I mean, it's just one of the possible thoughts I'm spinning in my head. And then the third mantra that I want to push is with SEN you can, and that's not just a stupid sales pitch. It actually means, I mean, it's a good one, but it actually means custom apps now, which is what I came up in collaboration with Grok. And it means that actually, from a user's perspective, you can really build an application because you don't need Calibra or other full-blown tools just to manage your personal book library. Why not just keep your books as files in a folder and extract the metadata from somewhere? I even can put the cover in the icon and you're good to go. Well, why do you need any library management software? Do you need to connect to publisher backend services, or why do you need the, So I fire up Calibra when I want to unlock some DRM crapified document, but that's already a specialized use case. That's what tools are for. So we have actually these OS challenges for personal knowledge management. We are limited by current systems, and we try to work around it, but it's like why not solve the root issue of it all? So we want flexible access to our custom metadata, like for book and ISBN or other attributes, and I actually want to search for these attributes. And I want to be able to freely configure it, integrate with other desktop applications. And this is why I came to Haiku, which is quite an obscure open source operating system for many. But the point is that it supports all that already. So I save like 1 year of foundation work because it's the only system, because they have their own file system, which dates back to the B file system of the late 90s, which was revolutionary in many ways, but another story. And there's no other system that currently supports custom metadata that can be indexed. And that's one of the prime requirements for my system and also for my vision. I want to search for an ISBN. I want to be able to search for a whatever subject. What books do I have about information management? And there's no system in the world that can do this. And that's a shame, and I want to change that. So we build our computer systems like we build our cities over time without a plan on top of ruins. That could be the Microsoft mantra, I don't know. We can cut that out later. So enter Haiku. It not only has an awesome logo, it's an open source operating system under constant development, which is why it often breaks for me, but they have stable releases also. And actually a very good package management, so you can get back to a stable state at any time. It's quite clever, because they use their own file system features for the system also. Every package that's installed links to the files or the attributes, so you instantly know with a simple search what is related to the package. Simple and elegant as it should be. And it is specifically targeting personal computing, so it's a single user system, so there are actually no passwords. You can just use it, do whatever you want. You are root for something. It's from the late 90s initially the design, so they didn't want to change everything. They wanted to re-implement what was already proven out there. But it's very powerful for users of all levels, and that's also a very important pillar of SEN. It's not a knowledge management expert tool. It's a tool it's an environment for mere mortals that just want to manage the information, right? It shouldn't be. That's why I thought about using OWL and everything and said, no, just no. So I lost a bit of track here. Was haben wir? 28. Yeah, okay. So I already talked about it. The most important feature is it's actually like a database like file system with a support for indexed metadata, and it also has typed files, like really native types. So it's like the MIME typing system of the internet. And you can really have a file with the technical file type entity/book. And this is what the system sees. And this is not tagged on top of it in a tool, but this is really the technical file type, and you can search for it. And that's just awesome, because then you can really add meaning, and you have things, not files, or objects, not files. And it looks like this. So you can really, it's a standard system find dialog. That's why I target Haiku, because I'm a lazy guy and I want to build my vision and not implement what's already there. And you can use the standard file tool. You say, select your entity, search by attribute with an ISBN of blah, and I get a nice query. And now the coolest thing, it looks like a Zettelkasten actually. And you can save this query. And then you have a query folder. It's like a dynamic query. You can store this somewhere as a kind of folder, and when you open that folder, it actually performs that query again and fills it with the results. So when you have a query folder with all my books for knowledge management or Zettelkasten, you already have a what is it? Sorry, not a classification, but like a category of books, or a kind of, yeah. Let's put it like that. So you already have quite a sophisticated library system without any work. And you can change this anytime, so it's also very evolution friendly. So when I change a tag name or a concept or whatever, nothing breaks. Why should it? Also the classification is made in the file system, and I can have I call this meta entities, but it doesn't matter. So you can have like a goal, and the goal is a file, and if I ever rename this goal, then everything that's linked to it will still have an intact connection. And I mean, that's how it should be, right? I don't know. Can't be so hard.
How big is the community around Haiku?
All of 350 people? No, it's I don't really know. It's hard to track. It's an open source project, very open license, MIT license. And it's actually Google sponsored this like every summer with the Google Summer of Code. There are some ex-BOS people working at Google, and so there are strong connections. And I'm bad with numbers. but it's a decent minority. And there's this guy on YouTube. You find a lot of crappy YouTube videos, so please ignore the testing out haiku, and the people have no clue, and they don't have an idea about the advanced features. They just try to mimic what they know about Windows, and doesn't make any sense to me, because why should I switch to another system to have the same things I already have? Doesn't make sense to me. So I'd rather search for exciting new features that I miss on my current system, or that I don't even know that I miss it. So there's the haiku. No, how is it called? I have to dig this out later. The AltOS guy. He's a German guy, and he predicted this will be the year of the haiku desktop, because now there's a Firefox port. But anyway, so this is the typing system. And I took the liberty to introduce new supertypes, because it is MIME type based, but it's not the internet, so basically we can do what we want. And it makes sense to introduce a kind of entity here, because then I can say this is a virtual object that has a file size of 0, maybe. Doesn't have to, but it can be an empty file with just metadata. And so you attach all these extra attributes. Okay, these are internal attributes. They should not even be shown. This is an old screenshot, but anyway. So you have like a label and a kind of description, and that defines a relation. And this relation is stored as an attribute on the file that is the source of the relation. And the target of the relation, like from book to an author, the target gets also, both get tagged with an object ID. And this is indexed. This is why I need a decent file system. And I can search for this object ID, and I find the matching parts together. And the fun part is that these relations, of course, can also have properties. This means that you can have a relation from a PDF document to another document, or to anything. And this can have a property of a page, or a role, or I don't know, provenance, whatever. So now the fun starts, because I have built some plugins that allow you to have deep links, kind of. So you have navigation into a PDF document, or inside a document, actually. So you have self-relations. So I'm maybe getting ahead of myself. Let's see. Let's keep it simple. So kind of the book notes in my system could look like this. And these are actually relations, I think, yeah. And you have like, okay, you have some ideas, you take some notes for a book, and you can link to specific start and end paragraphs, offsets. But that's up to the definition of the ontology, right? You can even include a start and end text, like in the, there's this standard, like a web snippet, web annotation. And web annotations are an open standard that allow you to reference parts of web pages. It's like it was driven by Google and Mozilla, and now they finally agreed on a standard, and it has this kind of weird fragment notation that was never used before, but now it comes to use. It's actually part of the HTTP standard. So if you have the browser URL on the top, you have this like protocol with HTTP, and then you have the host, and then you have the path, and then you have a fragment identifier, and that can be just a ID, an anchor to the same page, and there you can also, with this tilde symbol, you can also define kind of a part that you want to navigate to, and that can be highlighted. And that's also what I can use here in my relation. Can I have a bookmark pointing to some part of web page? But I can also use this in plugins to actually jump into a PDF document to that page, for example. So I can use the relation properties from any plugin to do anything, basically. And that's also the challenge, because these attributes, they have internal names, and the plugins have to know what this attribute is called and what it means. And that's the tricky part with ontologies, because how do we agree on entities and relation properties and so on? So it's a really balance, it's a delicate dance between personal flexibility on your desktop, but also you don't want to rewrite every plugin, and you don't want to introduce mappings of mappings just to make this possible, huh? Because then it would be SAP and not SEN.
Gregor, so you use external ontologies to fill your metadata, or do you do some local processing as well?
I can show this later. So I'm lazy, as I told you, as every good software developer is, and I mean, sorry, don't don't judge myself. Which means I let myself get inspired by ontologies that are already there, like friend of a friend or whatever. But most of the existing ontologies are far too formal, and I don't like the names, and it's like a lot of blah blah that I don't need on my personal system. Yeah? So I try to just take what I need for the most important parts and maybe keep the names or at least the semantics. But in the end, it doesn't really matter. I mean, the plan is that it's actually, so SEN is a set of several modules because I like to name things. And there's this ontology module that's called ONI. And ONI it's like a little joke because ONI is a Japanese ghost and they are kind of bad, but not only, they are also kind of shady things. And for me, this is the perfect resemblance of an ontology because it can really bite you in the back. But it's also a good helpful thing. And it actually also means something. It's a short for ontology native interface. That means that I have a text description here that's standard use. It's a resource description format that's standard on Haiku. They use it for everything. And you can describe your entities and relations, whatever, in a simple text format where you also have types. So it's really also typed. You can say this is a date or this is a Boolean. And you can do cool shit with it. So like for, yeah, anyway. And then you can exchange this. And since it's a text-based format, the plan is to have, it's all on GitHub. And I want to have a separate repository for entities and relations and so on. And then you could create bundles of this and say, okay, this is a useful collection for people who work with books or knowledge management. And I select existing definitions and bundle them together as a book ontology. And then reuse would be maximized and friction would be minimized and people would be encouraged to reuse what's already there. But nobody stops you from doing your own. The only problem being that if you're not a programmer or you don't like to map things and take care about this, then you may be better off sticking to something that's out there. So SEN does never try to force you onto any methodology or whatever. It's an infrastructure. SEN is a semantic infrastructure that's very tightly integrated into the desktop and file system. So it doesn't mandate anything, but sensible defaults, and it tries to, you're looking at me? It tries to help you but get out of your way. And for example, the movie example. So you're a movie critic and you're watching Casablanca, and then you see the closing scene, you have a relation to a time code and maybe a command or a quote. And this is the native file type of this. This is a 0-byte file, which of course technically has bytes for the metadata, but it's really the technical type is relation/movie reference. And we point to chapter 13. And this is all in the file browser. So it looks a bit different because it looks cooler than what is out there, but you can actually shift these tabs around, and it's quite some nifty features in the system. But that means that I can collect my thoughts on a movie in a folder, and it doesn't matter which folder system I use. And there I can have a time code of this was the invasion of Casablanca. Then there's also a link to Casablanca itself, which is missing here, but you could also link to the place, of course. And that place would also be a file of type entity place or location, and you could have the geodata as attributes, so go crazy. Yeah? And then the fun starts when you, not here, but it's just shows you that this is integrated into the file browser, and you can actually select which properties you want to see. So these are the technical file properties that you know, like the file type, created times blah blah blah. Every system has it, but Haiku goes way further than that. because you have your own file types here, and you can say, okay, but I have a role, or I have actually this is like the MIME types are a simple taxonomy because they're hierarchical. And here we have the relation / movie reference we've seen before, and this is mapped to a menu. So here I can select all the properties of the movie reference. We have seen, yeah, and this is like.
To interrupt, it's like the time is over now, but.
Okay, I'm almost done. Yeah.
Session after, if you want, you can just.
Which is good because the demo doesn't work. But just to show you, this is what I'm working on right now. So I call this like meta entities in a way, because you can define this is all completely customizable. But I want to introduce a useful meta like classification system, so you can actually relate your notes or whatever or other movies or actually real files. You can classify them either with a simple label, or you can say this is actually a context. You map things to a context, and this is like a project context, or it's part of a collection. So this is kind of a ontology is something internal. This is just where I group the definitions that make up a specific use case in a way, like a book. But this is more internal. A SEN plugin, this is all transparent. You can search if you want for all the plugins that allow you to that feature extraction, and then you see the PDF extractor. I think I had some screenshots about the extraction. So yeah, so I need to close now because it's really far too complex in a way. But the current status is like until yesterday night I was building the some last remaining bits of the book extraction service. So I can now search for books, extract the properties, including the cover, into the files icon. I can get the author of the book into another file, which is the author entity, and it has the properties of the author, like biography. Also could get it, and the birth date and whatever. I can do self-relations. You can right-click on a PDF and navigate into the file, which shows the structure of the bookmarks in like a menu. And then when you invoke this menu, you jump into the PDF to that chapter. This is the advantage of an infrastructure approach, and because no tool can do that. It's but please come to my place later. I can show this locally, but time is sparse and the system can't yet connect to the projector because it has some weird resolution. So what is also important here that is you can support the project, because I'm doing this on my own expense and I'm not Elon Musk, so any support is really appreciated. And there's a lot you can do. You can spread the word, you can ask me things, you can interact on Twitter, or also Blue Sky. I didn't put Blue Sky there. No, it's the same. I think it's the same name. And now I've built a simple web page where I can see some use cases highlighted. It's all free and open source on GitHub. And on GitHub you have the awesome possibility to star the project and to sponsor it. So star and sponsor. And monthly would be very convenient. And this is my Substack kind of blog, which you can also freely read. So I really want this thing to be open and free, but this doesn't hold you back from upgrading your subscription to a paid subscription, of course, to Spotify. But I don't want to, put people into different, because everybody has different economics, and so the information is completely free. But the project is, of course, in need of support. And if you know any guy that has grants to give away, then talk me up. I'm looking for funding now, actively. So that's me, and that's my project. I will push out a demo really soon, which you can try out in a VM image or download it and install it on a USB drive. I know I promised you last year. It's really almost done. But yeah, I mean, last year I was just really starting to etch out the core, Now it's so much more. It's really gazillions of galaxies. So that's the project. Thank you for your attention. Is there time for 2 or 3 questions. So.
I think since it's just eating now, if you want to post a question.
Yeah, who needs food anyway? So that's yeah. Else, chat me up later, then I can show you something in action. I'm sorry, I programmed yesterday night and now I can't show it, but it's there, believe me. And I can show it on the laptop. So, thanks for your attention. And I have a for example, the presentation is stored in a PDF. And I can now say, okay, open contained. So open related means outward relations. There's no relation yet, but open contained are the inward relations. I'm gonna say open contained PDF. It's a bad name. It should be more like bookmark probably. But then you see the slides. And when I go to slide 16, it opens the PDF and goes to slide 16. So you have a deep link without any effort, without any app. There's this app called Hookmarks on Mac, and they make a business out of this primitive functionality. It's completely ridiculous.
Super expensive.
Yeah, and you have it for free here. Yeah. Then I have this book. Where are the use cases? What is it? Oh yeah, okay. That's the book use case, and you have like. This is the query I told you about. It's books about information. But something's changed. Yesterday, okay. Anyway, there's my book library. And you can see you have authors, you have the title, publisher information, ISBN, there are different ones, year of publication, whatever. And now there's a glitch that makes Tracker crash sometimes when I do this, but we will try anyway. You see here also abstract entity book, and you can have all the things. There's also the full classification according to Library of Congress. And let me try this. Yes. So I can say arrange by name, and these are my books.
Is this metadata you're showing, is it like self-populating, or do I need to like do all the information by myself?
So I can say right-click enrich. And it will connect to, I'm not in the wireless one, it will connect to Open Library, so completely open, and get all the information. Why should I do the work? I mean, that's why I use a computer in the first place. Huh?
But it's just I was also thinking like, okay, when is it actually then too much to enrich? Because sometimes you also want to clog up your
that's why I only do it on demand.
Yeah.
And you can
But
also say,
filter it what you want.
which is also cool. You can actually create. I closed it. Library. You can actually create a new book. New entity book, and you just enter what you remember. Say like I don't know, Mona Lisa Overdrive, and then when you say I'm sadly not online now, but when you say enrich, it will actually search Open Library for this book title and enrich what it finds. And I have to implement this when it finds several results. It should be able to select or even download more books. So it's actually a search interface. So, and I think it's quite intuitive. You enter the information, you know the enrich. And now the cool thing is you can have the author also extracted. And here we have William Gibson. And if this again works, this is a guy, and this is the cover image I got from Open Library, and it's stored as icon. This is a FAIS native icon now. And I can now say right-click with open related, and now we have a relation which is called authorship, and we have a relation to the book.
Could you, for example, start from there and make a note about the guy because you mentioned that reading and whatnot?
Exactly. I can also click on the relation, and it will open a relation view with the attributes you saw before. So I could now see the role or whatever. This is not here, but I mean, you get the idea. Was he just a co-author or was he? So this is a very powerful concept to visualize relations with properties and make them navigable. And the new thing we talked about, I'm about to add this now. I need to use a scripting interface now, but it just sends a message to the application. It's very easy to add. So I will toss out this. I told you about. There's this create link, and it actually creates a primitive symbolic link which easily breaks, and I will toss this out and replace it with my semantic link facility. Then you can say create link, you select the relation, and then maybe, I don't know, either directly some target or you open the relation and drag and drop targets in, and then it would link correctly together.
Okay.
That would be the idea. So that's what I'm doing in my free time. Yeah, this is another use case with the self relations. We can really also have cascading. It's a really cascading here. So these menus, you can, they are nested like the bookmark tree in the PDF. So it really is the same, and you can just go there and it will jump to the. Later it will also highlight if you have an annotation, you can highlight. And this is integration code. You know, I need to target the application, and this is where things get a bit messy, because I have to know how the application works and how I can script it or how I can integrate it. But this is just work that has to be done once by some plugin developer, and then you can use it system-wide. And it's extensively, you can do anything. So I would have enough work for the rest of my life if I could afford it. So do